You're listening to the Fed and Fearless podcast. On today's episode, I'm chatting with Mel Abraham about how to be strategic as an entrepreneur when it comes to building wealth, both in your business and your life. So stay tuned. Welcome to the Fed and Fearless podcast. I'm your host, Laura Schoenfeld, a registered dietitian, nutrition business coach, and online entrepreneur with over 10 years of experience in online business. And I'm here to show you everything I've learned about creating a life and a business that nourishes you. On this podcast, we'll talk about the lifestyle habits, practical strategies, mindset shifts, and leaps of faith required to build a healthy body, a powerful mind, a strong spirit, and a successful business. Hey there, welcome back to the Fed and Fearless podcast. I'm Laura Schoenfeld, and I'm so excited to have you here with me today. Thank you so much for listening. We have an amazing guest for you. It's somebody who honestly should have been on this show a lot sooner, but for whatever reason, it's taken us until now to get him on. And hopefully it won't be the last time, because this is someone who has so much wisdom to share and has made such an impact on my life as an entrepreneur, as someone who wants to use my business to grow wealth, not only from my business itself, but also from investments and money decisions outside of my business. So I've worked with this person as a coach, and now he is a friend, part of the mastermind that I'm in, and I'm so excited for you guys to get to meet him if you haven't met him yet. So today's guest is Mel Abraham. Mel is a CPA by education, but an entrepreneur by exhilaration, and author of the #1 bestseller, The Entrepreneurial Solution: The Modern Millionaire's Path to More Profit, Fans, and Freedom. He's the founder of Thoughtpreneur Academy and Business Breakthrough Academy, where he helps entrepreneurs bring their businesses to the world and build the lifestyle that they want. After finding a cancerous tumor in his bladder larger than a baseball in June 2019 and successfully conquering it within 18 months, Mel began to openly teach his Affluence Blueprint because his cancer journey spotlighted the immediate and urgent need for entrepreneurs to find financial liberation and peace of mind. This is the very process and system he's used to build his business, and more importantly, his wealth through business, that allowed him to completely shut things down to focus on what was most important during that time. Most entrepreneurs are building a financial house of cards and don't even realize it, and traditional financial advice will not work for them. And that's why our conversation today centered around what to do as an entrepreneur to build wealth. As entrepreneurs, we have a very different opportunity available to us when it comes to our money, both making money and using that money to grow our finances and our wealth in other areas. And it's something that I'm super passionate about because I love helping my clients make more money in their business and be able to do the things that they want to do with that money. So like I said, Mel is a coach of mine. He's someone that has helped not only with the development of my programs, because he has some amazing content on framework and program design. It's really just awesome stuff. And if you're in the Nutrition Business Accelerator, if you've seen his training that we have inside of that program, you know how awesome it is. So he's taught me so much about that. And he's also helped me so much with making sure that the money I'm earning in my business is actually being used effectively to truly build wealth and not just be on this business hamster wheel that I think a lot of us get stuck on as entrepreneurs. So I'm super excited that he is on the show with us today. You guys are going to love him. And without further ado, here is Mel Abraham. All right, everyone. Well, I am so excited to finally have with us Mel Abraham. Welcome to the show, Mel. It's been way too long that this episode is getting recorded, after we've probably been talking about getting you on the show for like at least a couple of years now.
Yeah, it has. Oh, it's so good to be here because, yeah, you're right. We've talked about it, and it's finally happening.
Yay. Well, I am super pumped, and I know you're going to have so much value to share with our audience. We're going to try to contain it to about an hour or less, but Mel definitely has so much to share. So you guys definitely want to be following him outside of this episode, because I know you're going to love what he talks about today. So we want to talk about money, which is If it makes you feel any better, we've talked about sex and religion on this show before, so money's actually pretty tame for our audience. But can you just give a quick version of how did you get to where you are today as a money expert for entrepreneurs?
Oh my gosh. Well, I am a CPA by education, so I started down that path, but I'm an entrepreneur primarily. I started as an entrepreneur. My very first entrepreneurial endeavor was literally doing magic shows at 11 years old for $50, a half-hour show for $50 for kids' birthday parties. At 11 years old, I was getting paid.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good money.
It was, and this will let everyone know how old I am, but yeah, it was 1970, what was that, 72? Yeah, $50 for an 11-year-old. Don't tell the IRS, but it was cash.
Ooh, gonna come back for that 50-year or 40-year tax return that you never filed.
But the thing with that was it actually gave me a glimpse of the possibility around, wait a second, you can earn money doing something you love and impacting lives, whether it's just a smile or a laugh or a big transformation. And I thought that's cool. And that's when I started to really look at, what does it take to be in a business? And I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I needed to understand business. That's why I went into the accounting. But it didn't take me long to realize that I hated the accounting side of it, in the sense of the typical accountant ticking and tying and tax returns and that kind of stuff. But I loved helping people have their dreams come true, helping people bring their dreams to life, and see how that was not only impacting masses, the people you serve, but also impacting lives and generations by creating wealth out of that. And so that was kind of the focus. And then recently it came into glaring focus with the pandemic and my personal health challenges, as to realizing how many people are struggling with the financial aspect of their life. And most of it is not because of any fault of their own. It's primarily because we don't want to talk about money. It's taboo. Mm-hmm. And so we don't talk about money. And when we don't talk about it, how do we get better at it? How can we practice differently? And because we're not asking questions, and it's impolite. I grew up in a household that, talking about money is impolite. But in my household, I was a single full-time dad. I started talking with Jeremy about money at 7, 8 years old, teaching him and giving him a commission and teaching him the ways of doing it. Because here's the one thing I do know: no matter what the problem is, whether it's money or a relationship, the start to healing it, the start to fixing it, is always embedded in a conversation. And so we have to talk about it. And so it became glaringly obvious as I watched people struggle through the pandemic for a lot of reasons. And I said, it doesn't need to be this way. And so that's really where my focus has been in the last, 12, 18, 24 months.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know before we hit record, you and I were talking about the mindset of an entrepreneur around money maybe being a little bit different than what the rest of our society might think about money. And that's always been an interesting point of contention, not only for me in my personal life and, being in relationships with people who have a totally different perspective about money, but then also being a business coach and helping people make sizable investments in themselves and their future, and hearing, all the money excuses about why they can't make it happen or anything like that. And I do feel like the way that somebody who's an entrepreneur thinks about money actually should be different than someone who has a 9-to-5 job and their income's relatively fixed and they can't necessarily, get that much of a reward on their investment if they make a bigger purchase. So can you talk a little bit about, because I know that you work with lots of different types of people. It's not just entrepreneurs, but I know for the business that I'm most familiar with, you work with entrepreneurs. And is there anything that you have found that entrepreneurs either struggle with uniquely or maybe don't see as being something that they should do differently because of the unique type of work and opportunities that they have.
Yeah. So this is a beautiful thing because you're right. We still are being raised in a society that keeps the industrial age thinking alive. And that industrial age thinking is assembly line. It's just work your hours, save the money, and that's fine for a little while. But the reality is that industrial age also created something called pensions. A pension is a lifetime income stream. Well, when you worked for companies back then, 40 years or more, and you got a pension, you knew you were taken care of. And then the pensions got more expensive because cost of living was up, people were living longer. And so most of the companies started to do away with pensions. And they moved the responsibility for your lifetime income on to your shoulders. And they gave you things like 401k and IRA and all that. And those are not meant to give you lifetime income if you don't use them properly. The problem with this is this. Back in the day, and I'll get to your question. Back in the day, the only question was, am I going to work here? How long am I going to work here? And that's it. You are part of the pension. No, there was no question. But when they moved it from their responsibility to yours, now you had a situation where you had to decide, do I want to participate? How much do I want to participate? And if I participate, what do I invest in? When do I look at it? And there's all these decisions that got landed in your lap, and there was no education. I don't care what HR departments, and there was no education. There was no discussion. They say, we did this for you. Yeah. And they dumped it in your lap. And so what we tend to do is not look forward as a society, but entrepreneurs, on the other hand, will look forward. They see opportunities. They see problems and they go in and solve them. They run towards the fire. They run towards the problem. They're attracted to the problem. And some people will say they're risk takers, but I think they're risk mitigators. But the point being is that many entrepreneurs have a bigger vision of possibility, and therefore they're not confined to the income that they make. And here's the difference, and this is the questions they ask themselves. A lot of people, if they look at something and they go, that's really cool, I wish I could afford it. An entrepreneur will ask a different question, and their question would be more like something of, how can I make it affordable? And in the question is the possibility of existence versus the other one. And so when we approach it, and I think it doesn't matter whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, the fact of the matter is that there are no limits except the ones that we're going to put on ourselves. And I know that can be cliche, but I don't believe that multiple income streams is a luxury anymore. It's a requirement. And if we're truly going to take responsibility for our financial future, no matter where we're at, we need to understand, how do I create additional streams of income to give me that security, to give me that possibility? And entrepreneurs are built for it.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you more about that because I feel like when I think of multiple streams of income, there's kind of two directions my brain goes in. The first is within your business itself and not putting all of your income into one area. And then there's the concept of, the different streams of income outside of your business, which I know you talk a lot about, and looking at how do you take the money that you're making in your business and actually use it in other ways to continue growing wealth without it being fully attached to your business operations. Are you thinking of one of those two things, or is it kind of encapsulating both of those when you talk about different streams of income?
So for entrepreneurs, it's both. It truly is. It has to be both, because we need to diversify. We talk about diversifying assets from an investment standpoint. And why do we do that? To reduce risk. But we never talk about diversifying income, which in some cases is more important, because it's the very oxygen to wealth creation. It's the very oxygen to your freedom. And so I think that the initial thing, and this was something I learned as a CPA. We were swapping. It's the worst business model around, swapping hours for dollars. Okay. What's your hourly rate and how many hours did you work? And it's like, who thought that up? I mean, they should be shot. It's horrible. But what I also realized early on is that if I wasn't on the treadmill of hours, I wasn't getting paid. Mm-hmm. That's a scary place when you start to look at it, unless you start to build something that's leveraging other people, but you're still selling hours. It's still finite, versus understanding that we are in a space and a place where no matter what you look at it and how you look at it, we're in a value exchange economy. And too often when we talk about swapping hours, we're creating a commodity. We're just making every hour's value the same. And it isn't. If I know how to go and fix, well, let's look what happened. In June of 2019, I got diagnosed with bladder cancer. They found what turned out to be a 7.5 centimeter tumor. And the doctor I saw said, this is a tricky one. This one's in a bad place. It's in and I said, at that point, was I sitting back saying, how many hours is the surgery going to take? And what's the hourly rate? No. Did I care about the cost? No. I cared that I was going to keep my freaking bladder. And so when you start to look at it through the eyes of value, you now have the ability to see things that you can create value for other people inside the business in a lot of different ways. But I can look at a lot of my colleagues in the CPA space, and the only business model they know is swapping hours for dollars. In the coaching space is to sell coaching sessions. But there's other business models. And if we can do that, and I still do projects, I still do consulting, but I price it differently. And I have other ways to take my knowledge, my wisdom, my expertise, and sell it. And when we can create multiple income streams inside the business, now the business is more stable, your financial future is more stable, and you have a bit more comfort. I'll give you another, for instance. I was part of National Speakers Association, I've been speaking for a lot of years, and I had a lot of colleagues there. But I came to National Speakers Association to speak after I was a CPA. So I had this business model, and I was tagging on this speaking element, because someone told me, hey, you can get paid to speak. I go, I used to get in trouble in school when I spoke. Now I can get paid for it. So I added that part onto the business. Now I had this income stream from speaking. But when 9/11 hit, all my friends at National Speakers Association that only saw themselves as a speaker were dying on the vine, because the only way they knew how to make money was to get on a plane, get on a stage, speak, get on the plane, get back, go back and get on another plane, get on another stage. They didn't see themselves as a messenger, as a transformer, as something else. So their only way of delivering it, when it was gone, put their whole financial world in jeopardy. And I think that we still have a lot of that going on, versus looking at it saying, how do I chunk it up, and how do I start to create other income streams with what I'm already doing? And now give me a little more security.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like something that we were mentioning before we started the recording is this, when you're in it and you're doing that time for dollars thing, a lot of times, I'll admit it can get a little addicting, especially as you raise your prices, right? It's like, oh, I can make $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour doing one-on-one. Of course, that's an easy way to get money. But something that both of us have in common is the need to not be available for one-on-one during our business because of health-related challenges. So do you want to tell our audience a little bit about your experience going through cancer treatment and how having that diversity of income streams or, being able to change where your money's coming from was something that helped you get through that challenging time without it being a financial challenge?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, that I was diagnosed with, they found a tumor in my bladder. They looked at me and said, we may have to, it's in a bad place. We might have to remove the prostate. We might have to put a bag and a tube in for the kidney. And if it's bad, you lose your bladder. So like my whole life got turned upside down. Now, mind you, 2 weeks before I just got off of a G5. Okay, not mine. Someone else paid for it. But if you haven't flown on a G5, you got to do it at least once in your life and hope someone else pays for it. But my life was great. I just did a launch. I'm speaking on stages. I'm mastermind. Life was good, and it got turned on its head. And in that moment, I said, I have to focus on healing. And honestly, I was able to hit the cancer with all kinds of modalities and everything and not worry about a thing because I shut the businesses down effectively for the most part. The thing that demanded my one-on-one, the thing that demanded a lot of me, the thing that stressed me out, I stopped it. Just shut it down. And the two things I had going. One is I ran the business in a way that built something outside the business, what I call a money machine, that could support me. Now, I'm not talking about a savings account. I'm not talking about an emergency fund, which we have. That's fine. Because the problem with an emergency fund is that you build it, you use it, you got to rebuild it. What I'm talking about is building a machine large enough that all I have to do is flip a switch and it's spitting out cash flow like my very own ATM, and it's unlimited. And that's what I had built, fortunately enough, to do that. The other side of it is inside the business. I had income streams from speaking. I had income streams from writing. I had income streams from programs, from coaching, from consulting, one-on-ones. And I looked at it and I said, let me change the product mix. I'm going to turn the machine on and let it spit the cash flow out. And I'm going to change the product mix in my business that doesn't demand anything. So I focused on the programs. I focused on the online stuff. I didn't do group coaching. I didn't do one-on-ones. I didn't get on planes and speak. I did some virtual speaking, but I did only the things that allowed me to stay 100% focused on healing. And our lifestyle, no, I shouldn't say that. I was going to say our lifestyle didn't change. It certainly changed because of the cancer. But we weren't draining things. I wasn't selling stuff. I didn't go and sell my wife's shoes. That would have been a fate worse than the cancer. Okay. But we weren't sitting back going, how are we going to make it? Because I learned early on and I did something right. Now, I didn't understand the value of it. I didn't understand the importance of it until that moment. And it was obviously that was June of 2019, and then pandemic hits, March of 2020, and I'm watching everyone else struggle with it. And to me, it was like I had a dress rehearsal because of the cancer, and I'm watching everyone else struggle. And I go, wow, they didn't need to be that way. Yeah, I just understood, and that's really where what gave birth in this new season of my life. It's also what makes the cancer make sense to me. I don't have the risk factors. I'm not a smoker, not a drinker. No one in my family's ever had cancer. Lord knows how I got it, why I got it. We couldn't figure it out. We did all the kinds of tests. But the one thing that I can make it a positive and give it value is to say, if this is the gift that I can help other people to find financial peace of mind and true financial freedom and liberation, then the journey that I've been on with the cancer is well worth it.
Well, and I think this is something that is a really important conversation, because whether it's something like what you went through where it was a total blindsided, no good reason to go through cancer, right? Like that's not something that you're like, oh yeah, this is going to be a great thing for me and my life and everything. What I'm going through with pregnancy and planning for postpartum, obviously having a baby is something that is worth looking forward to and quite different. However, it's been interesting the last 8 months. I forget exactly at this point how long it's been, but just having that mindset of wanting to create the business so that it could run without me, either having those income streams that don't need anybody, or even just how do I build my team, or how do we construct offers that allow that they can keep running when I'm on maternity leave and I'm not coaching and I'm not, showing up for calls, that kind of thing. And I, this year, for the most part, shut down one-on-one. I had a couple of people that we just did a little bit of one-on-one in the first couple months of the year, but for the most part, shut it down. And just being able to kind of move my attention into the scalable products and services that can run without me while I'm on maternity leave has been so helpful for me, feeling like, all right, we can still have income coming in. We can still, have our clients being served, even if I'm off for 3 months. So I do think whether someone is preparing for the possibility of something like what you experienced, which, obviously there was no preparation for, right? It was just there and it had to kind of like, you had to adapt to it, or something like my situation where we had been thinking about getting pregnant for a while. And then when we finally pulled the goalie, as they say, it was one of these things where I still have, and at the time of this publication, I will be in my maternity leave, but, we've been spending the last 6 to 12 months preparing the business for me to be gone for 3 months. And I do think that I see a lot of the people I work with getting stuck in a business model that if something were to happen where they couldn't work, because life happens, right? Like, you could be in a car accident. You could, there's a lot of different things that could happen that would affect your ability to do purely one-on-one time for dollar services. And I feel like it's not until you hear it from somebody else or you go through it yourself that you realize how valuable it is to have options, that you're not just like, your business isn't tanking during those times where you're not able to do the one-on-one type of stuff.
I think this is a huge distinction for people to get, and to get early on. A lot of times we think, hey, I have time. I'm young. I'm just starting out. It's more important then, because you have the capacity, you have the capability, you haven't allowed your life to scale beyond your means. There's so much that you can do if we just start early enough. Mm-hmm. My son is just turned 32. His wife is 30. They've got my little granddaughter is 8 months old, little Emily, and they have 3 homes, and they have a multi-million-dollar net worth because they started early and they started small, but it grew. And even though you might just be starting out, even though you're just coming into practice or something like that, you need to put this planning on the table and have it part of your strategy, your path, even if it's $20, even if it's $50. But if we don't have the vision for, well, how do I protect myself if something happens? Then when it happens, it's too late. We don't need the oxygen tank. We don't start looking for the oxygen tanks when we're under the water. Mm-hmm. We need them before we go in the water. And so it becomes important for us to start looking at that. Now, you had opportunity as a couple saying, hey, I think we're ready. Let's, as you put it, pull the goalie. In my case, I didn't. And in a lot of cases, people don't. Mm-hmm. Or you think that, well, I'm only 25 or I'm only 30. I got time. Here's the thing. Time is your greatest lever to financial freedom that there is. $50. Every dollar that's invested in, say, age 20, 25 will turn into almost $90 by the time you're 65. So getting into it early and small is important. My little Emily, my little granddaughter, little princess, someone asked me, what are you going to do for her? What would you tell her dad to do? And I said, here's what I'm doing. And I call this the Emily factor. But I put $500 away in an investment account when she was born. I put $25 away a week. It's $100 a month. That's it. $100 a month. And you're going, he's such a cheapskate, But $100 a month, I'm only going to do it for 20 years. So the first 20 years of life, I'm going to put basically $20,000 away for her. But I never want to transfer assets to anyone without transferring skill sets. And so as she's older, she's 8 months, she's not old enough yet, but we will talk about money. We'll talk about the skills and the things she does. I get her 20,000. She leaves it sit, invested properly. It will be over $1.5 million. She's set up financially, not even thinking about what her parents are doing for her. And yet we don't think that way. I was just getting my hair cut, which doesn't take long these days, but my barber knows what I do, and he's talking about, he's a young guy, and he says, one of my friends, he just bought a $5,000 watch. And I go, does he make a lot of money? He says, no. He says, he's 23 years old. I go, 23 years old, he bought why did he buy a $5,000 watch? Because it was cool. I said, cool to who? He says, his friends. I said, do you know that he didn't buy a $5,000 watch? He goes, what are you talking about? I said, let's do the math. Remember I just said that $1 invested in your 20s can be almost 90? Let's just call it 80. $5,000 times 80 is $400,000. I said, he bought himself a $400,000 watch. He just spent $400,000 of his future financial freedom on a watch to impress people that don't need impressing. And so when we think about getting into business, or we think about what we're doing, even if you're just scraping by, make your financial future a priority and build it into your plan each day, because that's what's going to give you the gift that you had, the flexibility that you have, the flexibility that I had, and the ability to sit back. God forbid another pandemic hits and you go, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's interesting you brought up the watch example, because I think one of the other sides of that for entrepreneurship is that people are trying to save too much, if that makes sense. So rather than, like paying for a coach or paying for a program to learn to do what they want to do to grow their business, they're like, I'll just figure it out on my own and save that money and be really frugal. And it's interesting because obviously something like a watch for $5,000, yeah, maybe it would be a collector's item in the future and maybe it would be worth more than you spent for it. But in reality, it's probably not going to be, right? Versus spending $5,000 on a program that teaches you a skill that can help you make more money in your business. I mean, I've personally invested since starting my business over $300,000 in education coaching. And that's like a house, right? Like that's something that somebody could say, oh, if you would like put that away, that's something that you could have so much more money. And yes, true. Like that could have been an option. But the only reason I was able to spend $300K is because every time I made an investment in myself as the business owner, I made more profit than I could reinvest. So, for that $300K that I invested over the course of 7 years, we've done, I don't know what the grand total of revenue has been, but I know, for example, we started tracking our business program last June and we just crossed the $1 million mark in February for that particular business. So everything that I invested in learning how to do to get to where I am today in my business allowed me to generate $1 million in like 16 to 18 months total. So on one hand, the investment advice that you're giving is great. And obviously people need to be mindful of like where they're spending their money and, are they actually investing in future opportunities? And also looking at entrepreneurship as, well, there are going to be times where you do make investments that might feel like this is weird. None of my friends do this. $5,000 or whatever is a lot of money. But then looking at, okay, well, what if that $5,000 investment turned into a $100,000 a year business? So now that $5,000 in 10 years is worth $1 million because you learned how to create a six-figure business from that experience. Is that how you look at things, or am I just like totally off the rails?
No, you're not off the rails.
and
you actually answered it with the way you described it. One is spending, the other is investing. I started out saying that we live in a value exchange economy. Well, if I want to get paid more, if I want to make more, I need to be able to exchange more value. And one of the best ways to exchange more value is to increase valuable skills. And so investing in your growth, in yourself, assuming you apply it, is huge. And so it's what I call an ROI expense. That is a return on investment expense. Because I know that by putting the money in and I get up level my skills, I'm more valuable to the marketplace and I can get paid more because I can do more. I can solve bigger problems and do that. So it's a huge distinction that you want to look at, is that how am I, in fact, when I do goal setting and visioning with my clients, one of the things that I have them do is a lot of times they'll say growth, that they want a goal of $1 million, 100,000, whatever it is. But I say, what's your growth goal? What's your personal skill set goal that we're going to grow? Because too often this is still part of the industrial age thinking. I think they say, well, I got my degree. And now you're in an industry that probably has continuing education requirements like I do. But I got my degree. Well, so I'm done with education. No, you're not. You're done with a degree. You're not done with education. I mean, you can choose to be done with education, but all the things that I'm doing today didn't get taught to me when I was in college, getting my degree, getting my CPA license, my CVA designation, all that stuff. They were taught to me by investing time and money and effort in growing my skill set. And so it's a huge thing. So when I look at entrepreneurs, one of the things to consider is just that. When we're looking at the financials, there should be a line item for your own growth. I've spent well into the seven figures with the masterminds, the things. This is kind of crazy because a lot of people don't understand the importance of a decision that they might make to invest into something that allows them to grow. And I made a $65,000 investment in a mastermind way back when. We're talking 2006. Okay. And I'm like going, holy crap. Like I didn't start with, here's a $5,000 mastermind. I went straight to the 65. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I knew two things. One, it was my responsibility to get the ROI out. It was my responsibility to take what I needed from that to get the return on investment. But I didn't understand that as well, and I don't think I did a good job of it. Did it mean that it was worthwhile? And my wife asked, was that worthwhile? And I said, if I look at it in isolation, maybe not. But it was through that mastermind that I met someone by the name of Joe Williams. Joe Williams introduced me to Steve Linder. Steve Linder introduced me to Mark Victor Hansen. Mark Victor Hansen put me on his stage at the same time that Brendan Burchard was on his stage. I met Brendan Burchard, became one of my best friends. And it was through leaving Brendan Burchard's event. Now, my book got done because of Brendan. All the stuff that I've done is because of his coaxing, his forcing, his cajoling. But more importantly, leaving one of Brendan's events is where I met my wife. And so I look at it and I go, that one thing that I did in 2006 led me to the woman of my dreams. And so we sometimes look at this investment and go, oh, how am I going to get it back in like 90 days? No, how are you going to use it the contacts, the networks, the knowledge, the skills, and use it to expand your life forever. And when we take that tack to it, there's a difference between spending and investing.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny you mentioned that, because I feel like with my clients, most of them are in the nutrition and health space. And I think they often see the value in investing in more of those nutrition specific skills. And like you said, we have to do continuing education. So you kind of have to do it whether you want to or not. But I think what you brought up something that's really important. And I've had that exact same experience where you made an investment that you were like, I don't know, was that like the best investment? I mean, one of my first programs was like a $36,000 program. So not quite 60 something, but pretty high for a year of investing. But that connected me with some people that, ironically have now become clients of mine, but also, one of them had me on her podcast, and it's a very popular podcast. And that was one of the things that helped my business take off, was being on her show. And so, I could look at that investment and say, well, I ended the year with a $20,000 credit card bill on my business credit card, and I didn't make it back that first year, and it was stressful. And I was kind of questioning if that was the best thing for me to do. But I can look back, I think it's like 6 years later, 5 years later, and say, yeah, maybe I didn't get the value that I thought I was going to get, but I got all this other types of value that I wasn't necessarily anticipating. Even just the experience of paying for something and being a little bit sad about like that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to has informed the way I work with my clients and the kind of offers and support that we provide. So I feel like even for somebody who's in the nutrition and health space, learning how to operate your business so that you can serve your clients better, and also the kind of people that you can meet in those programs, that's one of those, like, you can't even necessarily put a dollar amount on the value for those kind of things. So, I feel like the networking piece is huge. As much as I used to think I was an introvert, I feel like networking has been a huge part of my growth as a business owner. And then, like I said, I've learned so much, for better or worse, about how to run effective programs and to really be able to knock the socks off our clients, which is a very effective organic growth strategy when you want to have a successful business, like actually serving your clients well. So it is something where we always get really excited when our students say, oh, I'm so inspired by how you serve us, and I want to make the same kind of, support and program available for my clients. That's like one of my favorite compliments, because again, we're not teaching them how to do nutrition, but we're teaching them how, and very large part thanks to you and your amazing guest expert stuff that's in the program as well. We're teaching them how to turn their knowledge into something that can help people in a scalable way. And we definitely don't learn that in nutrition school, let alone, I don't know what school is teaching how to take what you learned in school and actually apply it in an online business.
There may be some that are starting to do it now, but I'm not aware of them. I mean, there's entrepreneurship programs, but I don't think they're focused on online. And the challenge is that the online space changes on a dime.
Oh, yeah.
So if they don't have the capacity to and the agility to move, they're not going to be getting the cutting edge stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't think traditional universities move very quickly with their curriculum and that kind of thing. So whereas people like us are like, hey, this is a cool way to do this. Let me create a beta program. Let me launch this. Let me get this started. And you can have like a fully fledged program within 6 months that's helping people. So, okay, well, in the interest of time, I want to just switch gears real quick and touch on something that I know is a big part of the work that you do now, which is the concept of building a money machine outside of your business. So I know that you have so much to share on that, and we're going to have to give people the Cliff Notes version, but talk to us about, as an entrepreneur, and honestly, this is something that I see as being like the next stage for us in our business, is looking at, okay, what could we be doing outside the business rather than just in the business? But talk to us about, what does that look like, and how do you get started growing what you call the money machine?
Yeah. So the money machine is the concept where I'm saying too often we come to our business because we have an idea, we have a dream, we have a desire to serve, a desire to solve a problem. We have that, and we think that the business is going to give us control and freedom. And I got to tell you, a little tough love, nothing could be further from the truth. And your business is never meant to give you control or freedom. And if you've been in business any length of time, you're going to go, yeah, you're right. Because the business's sole purpose, not sole purpose, but primary purpose, is to offer a solution to your customers so you can have an impact and to create profits. It's then what you do with the profits outside the business that creates the money machine. And it's in the money machine that you create freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And so the important thing is to, first off, the first step is that we need to optimize our profits so we can take a sliver of those profits out and do it on an automatic, systematic basis, consistent basis, to start putting it into an account where we can then start investing it to build the money machine. Now, what is a money machine? Let's just look at it. It's a portfolio of investments. It's investments. It could be real estate. Mm-hmm. It could be Airbnbs. It could be stocks, bonds, crypto. It could be whatever. That's a whole different discussion. But the point is that I have this accumulation of assets that give me the freedom because, and I don't believe in this concept of passive income. Okay. A lot of people talk about you need passive income. Here's the deal. Your relationship with wealth and your relationship with money is just that. It's a relationship. And if you're in a relationship, you'll relate. If you've been in a relationship, you'll relate. And if you're about to go into a relationship, hopefully you'll relate. If you take a passive attitude towards your marriage, towards your relationship, what's going to happen in that relationship? It's going to wither and die. Okay. It's the same thing with your money. If you become passive around your wealth and your money and you're not actively involved, now I'm not saying that you're staring at it daily and by the minute, but that you're checking the pulse on the patient on a regular basis, you're going to lose the money. You disrespect it, it will disrespect you. And I truly believe that. And so what needs to happen is that we need to look at it and say, how do I create something that is leveraged, not passive? Leveraged meaning that it doesn't take all my time.
Mm-hmm.
And leverage can look like real estate, stocks, bonds, ETFs, index funds. It can look like royalty streams, intellectual property, a lot of different things that create once and get paid often. Okay. And you need to be conscious and intentional to do that, meaning that if I make $100,000 in my business and I pay all my bills and I pay my home bills and everything, and I've got $5,000 left over, that doesn't mean you go spend the $5,000. That means that a portion of that $5,000 is going towards building the machine, and it goes automatically. That it becomes a line item of your business, just like paying rent, just like paying for your internet. Your financial future is a line item that starts to get built there. Because until we do that, and like I said, I don't care if it's $10, $50, $100, $1,000. I care that you do it because your wealth, your current financial situation, good, bad, or ugly, is a result of your behaviors, your decisions, and your habits. Okay. And that may be hard for some people to take on because you got to take responsibility for it. But here's the beautiful thing. If you now understand that, you now have control to change it. Now, it may not be fun giving up some things or having to do some things differently because you got so used to it, but I'd rather you be wealthy than look wealthy. I'd rather that you, and true wealth is quiet. It's not the freaking Lambos. It's not the yachts and the boats and look at me on social media. All that stuff is junk. And most of them are in debt. I'd rather you systematically have a line item. And my desire for most when I work with them is I want you to get to a point where you're putting 15 to 25% away for your future. Now, some people say, I could barely make ends meet. That's fine. Start exercising the muscle and put $25 away, $50 away. $50 away every week, $200 a month turns into $350,000 in 30 years. Okay. So it doesn't take a lot to create exponential wealth, but we got to get in the game and stay in the game consistently. And that's why I say, once you get it going, you set it on automatic. You have an automatic transfer. You don't look at it. There's no friction. If we take the friction out of our investing and wealth creation, we would have more financially sound people, but we don't. It's a lot of friction to invest. I got to write the check. No, take it out, make it automatic, and move it over. Now you're building something that over time, and at the beginning, if you look at a growth curve, at the beginning, it's saying it's not much. Yeah, but what happens is the money starts to gain momentum. Now it could be 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, but you just stay in the game. Now the 50, we've got someone that both of us know, Colin, and we started to, I started to work with him, and he turned around and sent me a text that basically said, "Oh my God, since January we put over $80,000 away. We've got $100,000 in the business bank account. I love this investing lifestyle." Now all of a sudden he's getting into it in a gamification perspective, and now they're finding the joy in watching the numbers grow. And because as the numbers grow, your level of peace of mind grows, and your ability to sit back and say, "I'm cool, I'm good," grows. And that I think is actually the ultimate, is that we actually just want peace of mind and not feel like we've got to work for the rest of our lives, not wonder if we're okay, if we're going to be okay. We're sitting here as we're recording, as this is coming out, this whole idea that, we've got inflation, we've got interest rates. I just saw that mortgage rates are higher than they've ever been. They hit the 5% mark. Well, interest rates are going up, means credit card rates are going to be going up. Any variable rates are going to be going up. Inflation's going up. They say it's 8.5%. It's actually more than that when you start to look at it. And so those that have not taken control of their finances are going to feel the squeeze much greater than those that took control earlier. That doesn't mean you don't take control. We take control now, and we do what we can with what we have, and we start to make decisions to move ourselves forward. And it doesn't matter where you're at in your stage or age, you have the ability to do it. And I know that some people say, "I'm just barely paying bills." I bet if I came into your house, came into your world, and just kind of zoomed in, we could find some cash for you. I'm not saying that you would enjoy it. It's like when my wife wants me to clean my closet, I go, I don't enjoy it, but I'll do it. It's time to purge some of the old stuff. You haven't worn it in 6 months. I'm going, oh God, but in the end, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that's one thing that's so great about entrepreneurship, is that we do have that opportunity to say, hey, if I want to put $200 away into retirement, or, whatever we want to do, right? We have that opportunity to say, well, maybe I could make an extra $200 a month somehow. And that could be what I start, shuttling into that. I mean, I'm not saying somebody should wait until they're doing it, but rather than it being like, I have to no more coffees out or anything like that mindset, I think as an entrepreneur isn't always as helpful, because if you do the work to create something of value that you can sell, that could be your extra money that's going towards that financial future, instead of it being like constantly just scraping for what can I save.
I think you're right. The entrepreneur has the ability to affect both sides of the equation, the income side and the expense side. And there are commentators out there that are focused on the expense side. Let's just cut. Well, you can't cut yourself to wealth. You just can't. I mean, at some point you're going to hit bone. Okay. But you can grow yourself to wealth and be smart about the cuts. And I will be the first one that says, I very rarely tell someone, do not buy that. Most of the time, it's really about making sure that someone is fully aware, fully intentional, fully conscious about the decision and the choice that they're making, and let them make the choice. They know what it's going to affect on their future, on their present, and they make the decision. And if we equip them with the tools, the strategies, the knowledge, and the skills, they can do that every day on an ongoing basis. And that's the thing that I think allows them. Financial freedom to me is a birthright. It's everyone's birthright. But for some reason, we just don't teach people how to claim it. And it isn't about greed. It's about living a richer lifestyle and sitting back and saying, I was here. I mattered. I had an impact with what I did with my business. I was able to create a wonderful life for me and my kids and my spouse and my family and my generations. I did okay while I was here. And I think that's the thing that we tend to demonize the money and all that stuff. It's not about the money. It's about having the money so we can buy the moments of our life back and decide what we're going to do with the moments. And so when you look at it and say, I actually have control, and this is the thing that entrepreneurs do, is that they look at it and say, you look at Netflix. Netflix was created because the founder of Netflix was pissed off about the late fees he got charged by Blockbuster. And he said, there's a problem. I'm going to fix it. And it changes how we watch movies today. It changes how we watch TV today. And entrepreneurs have that kind of mentality. And if we take that mentality to the world and to our finances, to our family, it allows us to come from a place of expansiveness and know that everyone wins in that game.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love all of this. And like I said, I'm sure Mel and I have definitely talked for multiple hours in the past. So in the interest of time and the fact that, Mel has his own podcast that you guys can listen to get even more juicy wisdom. Where can people connect with you, or is there anything that they can do with you? Summer of 2022 is when this will come out, that can help them take those next steps with your brilliant guidance.
So I guess there's a couple places. First off, you can find me on social media, Instagram, Mel Abraham 9, my website, melabraham.com. On my show, the Affluent Entrepreneur Show, we get some tactical stuff in there too. Then I have something called a Money Momentum series. If you go to moneymomentumseries.com, it's a free 10-day works on the money mind. You get an exercise and a prompt every single day for 10 days to kind of work you through it. And so I think those are some places to start. We've got resources on the website. If you're trying to, hey, I've got debt, I got to get myself out of debt, and which is a whole nother conversation. So reach out. And a lot of folks have reached out to me with questions, and I've turned them into show episodes. So my desire is to be able to serve the audience in any way I can. And if you've got questions or anything, just DM me, reach out. I'd rather answer it and keep you moving forward to that path to financial freedom than you sitting back struggling or making a bad decision. And here's the one other thing is I got no investments to sell you. I got no bias. My job is to sell you on your dreams of financial freedom and what you were put here to do, and help you make that happen. So I'm not here to sell insurance. I'm not here to do anything but serve.
Yeah. Well, I can verify that Mel is one of the most generous people I've ever met. So if you guys need anything to help you on your journey, I know that he's going to be a great resource for you, as he already has been for the last 45 minutes or so. So Mel, before we wrap up, we'll make sure that all of your stuff is linked in the show notes for this episode so you guys can find Mel easily. Do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners as they go off to start their new and improved financial journey?
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think, and this came out of the cancer, is, we all have been told you only have a certain amount of time here on earth. And I think I took that for granted. But when the cancer hit, I realized I only have a certain number of slices of life. And I hope it's a lot for all of us. And yet the reality is that when we start to understand that we only have a certain number of slices of life, then we need to be mindful of how we give those slices away. I know that if I'm going to say yes to something, that's giving a slice of life away that I'll never get back. So I will only say yes if I know I can give it 100% of everything I got. And I'll only say yes if I believe the people on the other side will do the same, because otherwise the transaction makes no sense. And so I would invite you to start to look at things through the eyes of how do I make the most of the slices of life that I have? How do I create that richness in life that I want? And then let's build the financial plan to make that the reality versus sitting back and saying, I hope I make it there, because I think anything's possible. And so it's just a matter of approach. It's just a matter of resourcefulness, and it's a matter of guidance. And so I think that's it, is that to think big about your life, embrace it, and forget what everyone else around you will tell you. If it's a dream of yours, let's go live the slices of life in the biggest way possible.
I love it. Well, now you guys see why I love Mel so much, and I am so happy that he was able to come on the show and share his wisdom with you guys. So thank you so much, Mel, for your time today and your wisdom. And I mean, for me, it's been years of it that I've gotten access to, and it's been really amazing just getting to know you and getting to work with you and having you as a friend. So I really appreciate you.
Oh, I appreciate you too. It's been a joy of a journey, and we've only just begun. So thank you for having me on.
Awesome. Well, thanks to all of you for hanging out with us for the last 45 minutes to an hour or so. I didn't actually keep track of the time. We'll look forward to hearing or seeing you. Sorry, this is pregnancy brain. I am ready to have my brain back a little bit in a few months, but so excited to hang out with you guys, and we'll see you here next week on the Fed and Fearless podcast. Take care, everyone. Hey there, Laura here again. If you're anything like the hundreds of health and nutrition entrepreneurs that I've worked with over the past few years, you want to create an efficient, structured, and organized online health office that saves you time, maximizes your impact and your income, and provides a great experience for your clients. But maybe you've been told falsely that all you need is free tools like Google Calendar and Google Drive to make that happen. Or maybe you know that you need to use a client management software like Practice Better, but you feel overwhelmed trying to figure out how to set it up in a way that actually saves you time rather than wasting it. Either way, the fact is you need a well-oiled client management system, one that works for you like a team member if you want to have a successful online health and nutrition business. And in my brand new free training, I'm going to teach you the 6 essential steps to set up Practice Better for a more profitable and efficient virtual health and wellness business. I'll give you the step-by-step system for setting up your client management software that will get you out of the day-to-day admin work and back into the role of the high-level health and nutrition professional where you belong. I'll also show you how my client Jackie used these exact principles to help her make over $200,000 in revenue in her first full year of business, while also preparing to become a first-time mom. And by the end of this 60-minute training, you'll finally know the best way to create an efficient, structured, and organized online health office that saves you time, maximizes your impact and income, and provides an amazing front-end experience for your clients and customers. To get access to this exclusive brand new training, go to practicebettertraining.com and select the training day and time you'd like to attend. And don't worry if you can't make any of the times listed. We'll be sending the replay to all registrants, so just be sure to look for an email from hello@lauraschoenfeldrd.com to get your personal link to join the training. Having a well-organized client management system is a non-negotiable when it comes to building a financially successful online health business that doesn't burn you out. And I can't wait to show you the exact steps to doing so in the fastest and most efficient way possible. Go to practicebettertraining.com to sign up now, and I look forward to seeing you on the training.